In this tutorial, what we're going to do is learn a few Solidworks modelling techniques as we attempt to build our very own TARDIS from the TV show Doctor Who. So let's just take a moment here and have a look at the element parts that we're going to build a few at a time. What we're going to do first is we're going to build a couple of steps. There's only one step here, I'm going to build two. Then what we'll do after that is we're going to pull up this main body part just here. We'll then put a nice slopey roof on it, like you can see there, and we'll leave a little circular space on the top, which will be the light of the TARDIS. I think what we'll do after that is we'll knock a few windows out, which we'll put in just here, and maybe just round everything off to make it look smooth. And I'll probably hollow out the middle as well once I'm finished, so you could put some lights inside it. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. So with Solidworks loaded up, I'm going to create a new part, which I'm going to do like this. Once we're finished, this will be great because we can 3D print this very easily, and you can actually hold it in your hand, which I think is one of the coolest parts of 3D modelling. Right, so what we'll do is we'll start by using something we've used a little bit before, which is this thing called an extruded boss base. So I'm going to click on there, and I'm going to choose the top plane because I'm going to build on the floor, and I'm now looking at this from the top. So the way I'm going to do it, I think, is I'm going to use a corner rectangle tool, and then moving my mouse over this origin point just here, I'm going to make sure before I do anything else that I start on that origin point, and I'm going to come up and out to the right and up a little bit. Let's roughly 100 by 100 square. And straight away I'm going to come in here with the Smart Dimension tool, and I'm going to make sure it's exactly 100 by 100 millimeters, like that. Jolly good. I'll just auto zoom to fit. There we are. Okay, so I'm fully defined, and actually for my base of my TARDIS, this is all I want. So again, we're going to use a very simple technique here that we've used previously. So I'm exiting the sketch, and for my TARDIS base, probably, I was looking at my fingertips here at the moment, I reckon 10 millimeters thick actually should be fine. So I can leave that here on 10 millimeters and click on a green tick. So I've now got the base of my TARDIS. What I said I wanted to do though was I wanted two steps, and so in order to draw my next step it needs to sit on top of the layer I've already drawn. So I'm going to start off by clicking on this surface just here. This is the surface I want to extrude out of, and I'm going to use another extruded boss base like so. I can now spin this around a little bit if I wanted to, look at it straight on, or I could grab the corner rectangle tool and say, right, my next step roughly is going to sit on there. It's going to be roughly this big, and this one, this time I'm going to make it 90 by 90, I think. So I'm going to go 90 by 90, and you'll see it's not currently fully defined at the moment, but that's because the computer doesn't know whereabouts this square sits in relation to the one that I've already drawn when I did my first extrude. So I'm actually going to tell it that the distance from this edge here to this edge here is going to have to be, well, let's think about it. If overall the whole lot's 100 by 100 and the next square on top's 90 by 90, it means I've got 10 millimeters left spare, doesn't it? I've got 100, take away 90, that's 10. And of those 10 millimeters, I want to distribute half of them over on this side of the model and half on this side. So it's going to be two lots of 5 millimeters. So I'm going to click in there, type in 5, hit enter, and that should center it up. And then from this edge here to this edge here, that's also going to be 5 millimeters. It's going to be the same thing again, and I've now got it fully defined. And if I actually view that from the top, like I probably should have done in the first place, you'll see it all sits on there very neatly and nice and even. So I can exit that sketch now, and the computer will say, well, how much do you want to pull it up in 3D? And I'll probably go 10 millimeters again, so it looks the same as before, and click on the tick. Okay, so I've now got two steps of my TARDIS all put in place, and I want to build the main body part that's going to shoot up the middle, the bit that represents where the doors are. So that's going to be built on this level once again. I could have clipped on any of these surfaces, but I want the top one and another extruded boss base. Square again, another square comes on here. I'll go 70-70 this time. Again, you can use whatever sizes you want, of course. So 70, 70. And from here to here, that's going to be 5, just like last time. No, it's not that. It's not going to be 5, is it? Because the last one was 90, and this one's 70. 90 take away 70, so that's 20. So it's actually 10. It's actually 10 on each side this time. Maybe on reflection, I should have done 80-80 actually. Doesn't matter. like so. That's nice and even. And exit sketch. Okay, so this time I want to pull it up quite a bit more actually. There's a few ways you can do. You can write numbers straight in this box over here on the far left. That's absolutely fine. Or you can actually grab this little grey arrow here and you can say, right, what does that look like? Does that look about right? That's not too bad, is it? And you can actually do it by eye a little bit instead. It's better to give a specific distance. I feel that, what do I reckon? It doesn't matter too much, does it? I'm making it. I reckon about 120 actually will be about right. So I'll put 120 in here. That looks fine. And click on the green tick. Okay, so it's starting to take shape. We might recognise this as a TARDIS before too long. What I'm going to do next then is I'm now going to add the slopey bit on the roof. Let's take a look at that for a second here, okay? So here we go. So you will notice they've got 2 steps and then they've got a slopey bit. I think you've probably got the hang of steps, so I'm not going to do a step. I'm going to cut straight into slopey bit now. So here's what I'm going to do that. I am going to draw on this top surface. I'm going to do an extruded boss base one more time. I'm going to draw quite a small, no I'm not, I'm going to draw quite a big one actually. I'm going to draw quite a big base on here. So this is coming up in here. So the last one was, what, 70 by 70, was it? So I'm going to go 60 by 60 on this one. So it's going to be quite a tight fit. 60 by 60. That. So if that's 70 and that's 60, so it's going to be a 5mm one again this time, isn't it? 5. You're going to like this next bit. This is good. That's going to be 5. That looks good. Let's just spin that round. If you click and hold the middle mouse button down, you can spin the model and you can roll the mouse wheel as well, and that will let you zoom in and out. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to exit the sketch. Okay, here's the way that this new feature works that we're going to use now. So I want to get that slope effect. So what I want is I want it only to actually go up a very gentle amount vertically. If I think about the distance from this point here to the top of that pitched part of that roof, there's not an awful lot of distance vertically that's been covered. So maybe I only want that to go up by 10mm. So I'm typing in 10, I hit enter, I get a little preview. I'm just going to zoom in on that so you can see it more clearly. Spin that around a little bit. But what I want to do now is something we perhaps haven't seen before, and that's called a draft angle. Okay, a draft angle. And there's a feature here on this left-hand side of the screen. You see it says draft on, draft off. So I'm going to click once on there to turn that on. And now what I can do is I can make it so that rather than being perpendicular, rather than being at 90 degrees to this floor, that it's going to lean and tip inwards a little bit, or outwards if I wanted it. So let's look at what happens. I can click here. As I turn it up a degree at a time, you can start to watch the roof being pitched in and being sloped in. And what I actually want is quite a substantial amount of pitch. So I'm going to type a number straight in there. Let's see what looks good. I'm going to try 60. Let's try for 60. Oh, that's quite nice. I like 60 actually. There we go. So that's turned that roof in 60 degrees. Or I could have laid it outward instead if I wanted, but that doesn't really match what I wanted. So 60 degrees in looks nice. And if I wanted, I could make it less of a steep pitch, maybe 8mm. Let's try that. That's quite nice. Okay, so now I've got a nice flat roof. I'm tempted just to, again, you tweak around to get it how you want it. Quite nice. I'm going to go 65 degrees. Final answer. And click on the green tick. Okay, so I've got my pitched roof on the top of my TARDIS, and then my last part of the model then, to finish the first stage, will be to come up vertically with that little circular light that sits on top, which sits in here. You see that? And I'm just going to draw that as a single piece. So that's going to be, starting from this surface here, that's going to be another extruded boss base. And this time, rather than drawing a square, I'm going to draw a circle, which I can take from, just spinning it around a bit so you can see it. Just going to place it roughly the centre, and it'll be about what looks good, about 7.5mm roughly. Again, you can play. There's no real right or wrong answer here. So maybe I want that to be about 15mm in total for the diameter. And then the distance from the centre of the circle to the outermost edge. Well, that's tricky actually, isn't it? Because all of a sudden I'm not too sure what the overall width from here to here is, because I put the angle on it. I've actually created a little triangle problem there. So what I will do before I go anywhere else is I'll just quickly take a measurement from here And I went. Let's try that again. I wonder what that distance is. Just give me a moment while I just try and work out what I've got. I'll tell you what I can do. If I go here to here, that'll tell me that distance. So, and I'm going to call that 15 degrees, just for a second. And if I then do a measurement from here to here, that's 10.69. Okay, so overall the distance of this is 25.69 millimeters. Wow, okay. Yeah, 25.69 millimeters. Okay, rather than doing some maths, I can do this though. Watch this, watch this. If I double click on here, hang on, let's just get my smart dimension tool. Obviously, when you're doing a live tutorial, it's going to want to be uncooperative. I'm just going to turn off smart dimension just for a second, just so I can click on this distance. And now I'm going to double click on this distance. Okay, we said 25.69, 25.69, and it's 25.69 divided by 2. So I can type in a /, which means divide by, and then 2, hit enter, it'll perform the calculation for me, so I don't have to do it. And then when I come to going from the centre, smart dimension tool again now, when I come from the centre of this tool to this side, I can do the same trick. 25.69 divided by 2 and enter and done, and that now centres it up for me really, really nice and neatly. Now when I exit the sketch, I can pull my little light up as deep as I want. I'll leave it at 8 millimeters actually, that's fine, and click on the tick. Okay, so what I've now got then is the beginnings of a really, really nice little TARDIS model like this. It looks rather nice, doesn't it? That I can then continue to work on. So what could I do next? Well, at the moment this is quite sharp and angular and boxy, so what I'd be inclined to do next would be to put some nice curves onto this, which will sort of soften all those edges. And we can do that using a tool called a fillet, which is this thing just here. Let's take a look at that. I'm not going to do all of them. I'll do maybe one and you can have a bit of a play with the others. Let's come down to this step on the bottom and put a bit of a rounded edge on this step just here. So step 1, click on the fillet tool. You'll get some options up here just here. It'll say what sort of fillet would you like. In my experience, the one that works nicest is this one, this face fillet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the 2 faces that I'd like to put this curve onto. So I would like there to be a curve between this surface here and you notice now what I'm doing. Look, I'm coming over here, clicking in this box and this face just here, which is at 90 degrees to it. Alright, I could actually add, if I just go back onto this one, I could also add on and say, well actually let's do this one, and holding down the middle mouse button, and let's do this one, and hold it down again, spin it around some more, and let's do this one all at the same time. I could fill it the whole lot all at once. And when you do fill it, what it's effectively doing is it's a little bit like drawing a part of a curve around the outside of it. If you imagine I took a circle, put it inside it and pushed it up against this this edge, that's what I'm doing. So I don't want it to be too big. I don't want it to be 10 millimeters, which it is at the moment. It's going to be quite a small bit of rounding off that I'm going to do. So maybe 2 millimeters, I think, would look really, really nice. And you get a little preview here of what it might look like in a second. So if I click on the green tick, and give it a moment, you'll see I've now got nice, smooth, rounded off corners on the steps of my TARDIS. And so there's other things I could fillet as well. I could fillet from here to here, that would look quite nice. I can do a fillet from there to there, that looks really good. And I'll tell you what does look nice as well, I really like to do, is to fillet from a curved surface to a flat one. So if I fillet from here, click on this one, to here, okay, quite a small fillet, quite subtle, 2 millimeters is good, but you can play around with it. And click on OK. It now gently tapers off. Again, a lovely rounded finish on there. And I could put a nice cap on this as well. I could really round this off very nicely too, using the fillet tool. Probably 2 millimeters again, actually. And again, it just gives a much, much smoother look to your models when you're working through them. So that's fillet. Last thing I'll show you is this. I might show you a couple of things. We'll see how we go. Next thing I want to do is my windows. If I go back to my TARDIS, if I were going to try and light this up, I'd need to knock out these bits here to form windows. And you can do that very, very similar to using the extruded boss base, but using something called an extruded cut. I'll do one window, and you can have a go at the others, alright? Now, thinking back, let's have a look. This base, that was 100 by 100, wasn't it? That was 90-90. This is 70-70. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to choose this surface. And I'm then going to choose Extruded Cut. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to spin the model around so I'm looking at it dead straight on. is I'm going to cut out where I'd like my windows to appear. I'd like a window here, and I'd like a window here. And let's think about how big they're going to be. I'll probably, this is 70, isn't it? Okay, so maybe I'll go and say that from here to here, that can be 10. Okay, let's go with 10. We'll try 10. And I'll go that here to here, that's 10 as well. I want it to be symmetrical. And then, so that's 10 and that's 10. I've got 50 left to play with. If I did, what's in here? That's close enough to 10. I'll do 10 here as well. Okay. So that's that. So these two are then 20. Does that add up? Let's do that. No, I guess not. Oh, of course not. Because if that's 10 and that's 20, that's 10 and that's 10. The only thing that could be is 20. That's why the computer won't let me put that in. Okay, the height of my windows, they look quite nice at the moment. So I'm just going to round them up to 35 millimeters, just to use easier numbers for myself more than anything else. That's looking good. And then what I'll say is I'll say that the distance from the top of the window to the top of the TARDIS, that can be, we'll call that 12, I think. And the distance from this one, oh no, clicked on a number by mistake. Distance from there to the top of there, could be 12 as well. Looking good. Okay, so that's all fully defined. The computer's happy with that. And I've drawn this flat shape on. Right, let's exit the sketch and let's learn something new. What the computer's now saying to me is it's saying, how far into the model do you want to cut out your windows? So if I said 8 millimeters, or I don't know, 10 or 28, something like that, let's just do quite a small one for a second. You can always change it later, can't you? Just click on the tick. Let's look at what this does, 18 millimeters. Okay, so you will now see, as I look at this model, you see that, look? I've now got two windows that are cut out 18 millimeters into the shape. Pretty cool, isn't it? Oops, wrong side, that's not very helpful. But I actually want it a bit more than that. I want it to cut all the way through to the other side. So what I'm going to do is in the Solidworks tool manager that I've got over here, the I can't think what this is called. That's like a timeline, a history really, isn't it? I'm going to click on that extruded cut, and then I'm going to choose the option here that says edit feature. So I'm clicking on that. I've got my options back again. So it's not 18 millimeters, it's more like the full depth of the TARDIS, which is 70 millimeters, isn't it? So I could type in 70 just here, and that'll cut straight through to the other side, and that'll poke those holes straight through the middle there, which is great. I could do that. A lazier way of doing it is I could just say that I just want it to go through all the materials and all the surfaces that it finds until it hits the end of the model. And it'll automatically go, okay, well the model's furthest point is here, so we'll just go all the way through and punch a hole straight out the other side. That's probably the laziest way of doing it, so I'm going to do it that way. Really nice. And now look, I can see straight through. If I put two more windows on here and poke those through, I'd have a full set of TARDIS ones, so that would be really nice. I could use the same trick a bit further on as well. I could actually come into the bottom, and I could do an extruded cut in here. So I could flip it upside down and draw a square on there. Let's think about this for a second. I need the width and the size not to be any bigger than this. So maybe if I made this 60 by 60, I'll have sort of 10 millimeter thick walls, won't I? There's 60. Be 60 as well, and I need that to be dead center. So let's think, that's 100 by 100, 60 by 60. That means 100 take away 60, that's 40, and then I evenly share that out this side and that side, so that's going to need to be 20, isn't it? That's 20. Okay, and this one is 20 as well. Okay, looking good. And now I can exit the sketch. So what I'm doing this time, look, is I'm hollowing out the interior. You can see those windows I punched in. Look, hollowing out the interior of my TARDIS. So I'm going to pull that up and this one I am going to do manually. I'm going to pull this up until it sits in about the right place, which is about there. Look, that looks good. 134 millimeters. I bet it's meant to be 135. That looks nice. And then click on the green tick. Okay, so now I've got a lovely hollow TARDIS that I could put a bit of circuitry inside. That'd be really neat. If I wanted to try and run some LEDs up into this surface up here, I could do that. I could flip it upside down. I could get onto that surface. I could do another extruded cut in there. Have to be a bit more delicate this time. Maybe make it a circular cut. And I could actually make something in there to hollow that out as well, so that I could have my very, very own really, really cool hollow model of a TARDIS. Make it much easier 3D printing wise as well. Just about finished now, you know. I reckon I'll show you one final trick which you might find useful, and then I'll leave you to see if you can finish your very own TARDIS model. On the TARDIS, what you've got is you've got this bit that juts out slightly, and it's got police box written on the outside. It'd be nice if we could do that as well. So here's a way that I could do that. I can start off by coming onto one of the outside edges. I'm going to do this one, but you could just as easily pop it here. And I'm going to start by doing an extruded boss base. I'll draw a little thin box, which I'll stick on here. I'm not going to dimension this one properly this time. I'm just going to exit the sketch. I'll pull it out, not by a lot, maybe 10 millimeters. Just like that, just so it sticks out a little bit. That's probably a bit too much, maybe 5. 5's good. Okay, so that's my outside part. And I want to put some text on here. So I'm going to click on this surface. I'm going to make the text so it's inside. I'm going to use an extruded cut to do the text. And rather than using all these different tools, I'm going to grab the text tool. And my text is going to be police box, all in caps. And rather than using the font that Solidworks gives you by default, I'm going to turn the document font option off. And I'm going to choose my own font, thanks very much. It's quite a nice traditional font. It's called Jill Sands. I wonder if I can find that. I've always liked it. It's the Stay Calm and Carry On font. So Jill Sands MT, good. I'll have that in bold. 3.5 millimeters tall. That's probably about right, I should think. You can always change the height later. Click on OK. And I'll click on OK. And the computer will put that text on there for you somewhere. And as it happens, it's put it absolutely miles away. That's fine though. You can always grab hold of that little orange dot you get in the corner, look, and we can bring that up, plonk that just there. Let's move that up a little bit. And then what you can do is you can use Smart Dimension, just like you've used before many times, to actually set whereabouts you want that to appear. So I could go from here to here, measures a particular distance, or whatever that we've done in the past. Again, it's unfortunately, because it chooses the bottom left corner and you don't know how wide the overall load of the text is, it's not very helpful actually, but you can play around and you can get a pretty good match. Once you're happy with it, just like before, we can come out, exit the sketch, and we get the option of how far you want to set the text in. You don't want, in my experience, to set the text in too far. I'm only going to go in 2 millimeters, which I think should look nice, and then click on the green tick to exit out. And so what I've now got is this really nice look, lovely 3D set of text for my TARDIS. So the rest now is over to you. What looks really nice is to add in the other windows. That's lovely. Let's look for another thing as well as doing some other fillets. What's really nice is if you just add in the little embossed parts on the doors. This is really nice. So you can get in there and you can do some extruded cuts, but rather than cutting all the way through the model, you just cut in 1 or 2 millimeters just to add those nice details, just to make it look really professional and really